Hello,
Hello,
how are you?
fine. You? What about you?
Yeah, brilliant. Good.
Great.
Hello guys, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Here, just waiting to start.
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh,
Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon. Well, good morning here in Spain, more or less.
Just another 10 the delegates are also joining. So exactly at 2:22, we will commence. Exactly 10 minutes more because the panelists are joining and the delegates are also at present coming through, and almost 1,000 delegates are there for this session. So exactly at 2:22, we will start.
Okay, the voice is cutting a little bit. I don't know if the
Yeah.
connection is really good.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, same here in England. I'm cutting in and out.
If I'm not wrong, I'm the first speaking, right?
Althea, please.
If I'm
here,
not wrong,
yes.
I'm the first speaking, right?
As a moderator, I will start the session and I'll take everybody's
Okay.
name in sequence. So I will be there present.
Okay.
I will moderate it through, so it will be coordinated accordingly.
Richard को और दिनेश को and Sanjay Day को बोल देना.
Hi, Steven.
Are you okay?
Yeah, we will start exactly at most probably 2:22. Another 5-7 minutes more because the panelists are joining,
Okay.
and that also at present joining. So it will another 5-7 minutes more maximum. So you all can just put that video on and can come back even at 2:22. Another 5-7 minutes more.
Okay.
Hi, Sanjay. Sanjay, I'm audible?
Yeah.
Audio is not coming.
Audio is not coming? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it is better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it is better. Slightly faint, but it is better.
Okay.
Morning, Steve Darby.
Morning. I can hear you perfect now.
Yeah. Morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Another 3 minutes more because the panelists are joining and the delegates are also in the final process. Exactly at 2:22 we will start.
All right.
I will do the moderation in such a way where initially I will just give a small 1 minute outline. Then I'll introduce each one so that you can deliver your topic. Post topic, we will select few questions and we will put it forward to the expert panel where individually you can give your opinion over it. Only the selected questions from the 1,000 delegates who are there asking, only the worthwhile questions will be forwarded. Anishan, Mark is missing. Mark is missing. Dinesh is missing. शुरू कर दो दिनेश again. मैं समझ गया जो तुम let's start कर देते हैं let other join start okay fine so we are starting the second session for Global Soccer e-conclave today. The focus for this session as well as this conclave is very, very clear that keeping the pandemic in mind, we want to take football ahead. We want to play football better, as well as ensure the revenue flow, as well as we want to ensure the positive impact of football to come to the society. As we all understand that most probably after World War II, this is the largest threat football is at present facing. Even at the time of World War, the football was alive and kicking. And even in this time of pandemic, we are seeing that football is moving ahead and it is going. So keeping that positive note in mind, we are 10 panelists today. Each one will be delivering individual topic, and post session I will just put forward few questions to the panelists, and individually who wants to answer can even raise their finger if someone adds something with that session. So first I will request Joao Tralhau. He is a UEFA Pro coach and former assistant coach of AS Monaco, to start your topic and just share your views and vision.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's really rewarding for me to be here, sharing ideas with you guys. Hopefully everything is okay and safe with you and families. And my main purpose to come here is just to share some knowledge and share some ideas that I have during my career as a coach about training methodology and how I reflect on this situation and how can we match both things, the methodology and this situation. It's a new situation. If you don't mind, I will start to share my presentation.
Yeah, please.
Just remind me how many time do I have to present?
Because it is a session for 10 speakers, we have allotted 10 minutes for each one.
Okay, brilliant. I will try to be very, very quick. So, check. Okay. Can you see well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Good.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So about training methodology and back to competition, I crossed these two ideas, and in terms of training methodology, I believe that first you need to evaluate the contest. And the contest, the preparation, of course, there is a new situation in the context of sport, not only football. Almost 8 weeks off, it depends on the environment, because here in Portugal was 2 months. In other countries like Germany was a little less, but almost 8 weeks off for everyone. I believe that there is a variability in post-pandemic stress in terms of not only the players, the staff, everyone involved in the game. You have players like Kanté in Chelsea. He doesn't want to come back because he's afraid of this pandemic situation, of course, and it's understandable. And you have other players that they don't care about this situation; they're just relaxed. Then the need for integrated multidisciplinary planning, I believe, is not only about the coaches, it's not only about the physical coaches. I think it's about everyone, not only the psychologists. Everyone is involved and should be integrated. So I believe, and I reflect on this learning. And for me, the first stage to come back is to individualized training conditioned, because you are not allowed to play in groups, to work in groups, in big groups, and you should have individual training sessions, conditioned, of course, because of the situation. Then the second stage, progressively, you should integrate collective training in smaller groups, and you should be creative to put them playing with the ball with some specific situations. And then, of course, after the third stage, what we saw in Germany, in Portugal as well, in Spain now, in other countries, of course, a collective preparation training. You are not allowed to have team friendly games, because you cannot play friendly games, but of course it's important to have collective preparation training, dynamics, blah, 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 everything connected with the collective preparation. And then I think the competition preparation, I think, should be very detailed. The importance of characterize the profile of the duration density of competition is important because teams will play so many matches in 1 month or 2 months time scale. It's huge. Density is huge. It should be specific. The planning and the prioritization, in my opinion, you should have before, not now, but you should have before, since the start of the season, a clear and objective definition of your game idea, and you should maintain your guidelines. I think it's a mistake to change so many things now. You should maintain everything you did till now. In my opinion, you should avoid the volume and training overload because it's not the time to do that. It's time to maximize every duration of exercises and training sessions. Then the most specific are the training session. I think you will maximize the training session as well. So I believe in playing exercise setup to manage in the third stage, of course, on second stage. But you should have this exercise to play. Players should play to maximize time and to have to have the synchronization that you want to have in your team. You should play. You should not do exercises like 10v0 or 5v0. I think it's not the idea. The idea is try to play 3v3, 4v4, 5v5, 10v10 to maximize the synchronization between them. And of course, you should have complementary room sessions like video analysis, that not only the opens but your performance. So the challenges for me is to have a good management between the preparation, the competition, and recovery. The recovery here for me is crucial. Motivate elite players, top players for an unusual environment because it's a stadium without people. It's around the match. It's not the same because I think this situation it's hard for players who are used to have this environment, this professional environment with a lot of people, a lot of media around them, and suddenly they don't have anyone in the stadium. It's crucial to motivate players the way that we understand that we should. So the next challenge I think is manage players in tough for social environment because players are not allowed to socialize like in normal situation. Of course, deal with injuries and COVID-19 situation because will appear, and how do you deal with that? Promote sports values because I think when we think about sports, we think about joy, think about fun, think about having some good feelings, and I think we should promote the sports values when we return for the game. And of course, prepare the next stage, contracts, next season preparation, everything. I think it's a challenge for everyone. So in terms of game model idea, I believe that the football trends now it's a constant alternation of systems and strategies, even during the match for every team. A constant search for numerical superiority by zones, highly competitive density. Now you have league games, cup games, European games, or not only European, of course, I'm talking about Europe, but you have a lot of competition. This is a reality now. You have less time to train and a demanding understanding of the game. Every player should understand the game properly to play this game. So every team has a game model idea, as we know. In my opinion, the game model idea is the result of the type of interactions between all the elements, and these interactions result from the idea and of course the training method. And for me, planning without a structure, planning a training method without structure, direction, follow anyway, and I don't think it's the right pathway. So to create a game model idea, it's to define a path in a certain direction where we want to go, create a structure of principles. And these principles will be, I think this process will allow us as a coach to gather a set of specific and synchronization components. And I believe, I'm convinced that you should look at an holistic vision of all dimensions. Not only you should focus on the tactical or physical, but you should have a holistic perspective of all dimensions. I will show how I structure my principles. I structure my game model idea. It's about the dimension. I can say, of course, I gave you an example, the dimension of tactical approach. The categories I divided the game in macro principles, the major principles of what I want to play, and then after these macro principles, I associate a set of principles and sub-principles, and for these sub-principles are the details. Okay, I gave you an example here. Cannot go in deep because time is a little bit narrow, but I can explain you after. So in terms of prioritization, I believe in tactical prioritization. Tactical prioritization is, okay, you will prepare your team in terms of what you want your team to do, in terms of your game model idea. It's a planning by week, not planning by month or 2 months or 3 months. It's a week by week, holistic and integrated vision. I think it's important. And the principle of specificity. If I want to play in a certain way, I should practice in the same way. So the planning stages, of course, is define the principles that will allow the foundations. It's important to not go with the idea, but should evaluate your group performance level first, then build a content distribution plan, horizontal and vertical, horizontal in terms of week, and vertical in terms of all the weeks, and create a learning model that promotes interactions and depends of your level, of course. So, in terms of training methodology, like I told you, I believe in tactical prioritization in terms of training method. I think the game model idea and the tactical prioritization will allow you to have your team identity, not only one in terms of isolated perspectives, because if you have a good game model idea, but if you don't train to prepare this game model idea, I think your identity will be. So in terms of this connection, I build. It's important for me to have a game model idea to structure your principles, and I give you here an example for offensive process, defensive process, and transitions. And I define the macro principles, the principles and sub-principles, and then I will work in these principles every day. In terms of physiological, because it's a challenge for us now, the coaches in this situation, because I believe that you should not only focus on tactical technical contents, you should have the connection, the perfect connection between two contents, the physiological and the tactical. If you have this connection, I believe this will influence themselves directly, because if you want to play in possession, you cannot practice in terms of a lot of speed, a lot of not sprint situations, because you should have the physiological content related with your tactical and technical content. Not only in the game, but if you prepare them on the training sessions, it will be easy for players to understand and to practice like you want. So in terms of week planning, I believe that we have the tactical prioritization concept not only focused on the technical organization, but physical organization as well. I distribute the contents, and for the week, in terms of physical, in the left side, in your left side, you have the acquisition period. This means the day one, or the match day +2, you recovery, then you have strength, focus, then we have resistance, blah, blah, blah. But I also have the technical and tactical prioritization. Like, okay, on Monday, I like to focus on the general principles. The match day -4, I like to focus on defensive process. -3, offensive, and this is the way that I believe that you should prepare the week. And during the weeks, throughout the weeks, I think you should repeat in terms of your structure, but you should increase the complexity. And this complexity increase, it will give you the possibility to stabilize your performance. I think it's the way that you can stabilize it. You are always change the week structure. I believe that you will be not in chaotic bad way, but in not directly bad way to achieve the stability that you want in your performance. So in terms of method, this I think is related with the situation. I believe that the whole exercise should integrate various dimensions, not only tactical or technical, but when we think about exercise, we should think about everything related with exercise, the psychological dimension, the tactical, the technical, the social, everything. So exercises that develop decision making, because players should decide every time, and the variability of the game is huge. You cannot anticipate all the scenarios. I think all exercises should develop decision making, promote creativity, and allow them to select the best decision. And in my opinion, one of the things that I give the most importance is the timing. You can decide well, you can execute well, but if you don't do it with the right timing, probably it's not the best solution. And all the exercises should be according to your game model, because you can prepare an exercise, but exercise is the top class exercise for counter-attack ideas. But this exercise could not fit. It will not fit in the possession idea. You should create your own exercises to achieve one idea. In terms of exercise profile, I believe that you should optimize training session, training time. It's important, because if you want to maximize the time of the session, if you want to only train 90 minutes, all exercises should be optimized. And if you create a real game scenarios, I believe you will have more effectiveness in this idea. So all the exercises for me, they have three important elements: direction, a goal or a line or something that they should achieve; opposition, or could be smaller opposition, or a higher opposition, but should have opposition for them, allow them to have the decision making, and should have decision moment. If you are attacking, when you lose the ball, what you should have to do, or if you are defending the ball, what you should do. So I believe that if you have to create situation, problem situation. If you have a problem, you have a situation, you need to solve this situation.
So Joao, what should be from your side the take-home message if I just ask 1, 2, and 3 at present?
Excuse me, I did.
1, 2, 3.
Excuse me, can you repeat, please?
Yes. What I am mentioning is that because of the principles and the activities are being followed even before the COVID, once the COVID is there and we are looking beyond it, can you give 1, 2, 3, just 3 take-home message where you want to introduce something new for these sessions, coming sessions?
Okay, to what I believe that you should have new in your sessions. Yeah, that's
excluding the health and hygiene aspect.
Excuse me?
Excluding the health and hygiene aspect, do you recommend anything new? Do you foresee anything new in this new environment? What we are doing already, do you want to add anything new?
Yes, I think you should now. You don't have time to prepare your team. This is the problem. You will not have time, because you have, of course, a preparation period. You will prepare the returning, but you will prepare not with a pre-season environment, because you will not have. The pre-season environment is different, because you have more time to prepare. You have the possibility to have friendly matches, friendly games environment, but now you don't have that. So if you don't have that, how do you will create your sessions to simulate this preseason? And that's why I think it's important to share the training methodology that I believe. And the training methodology that I believe, it's to optimize the training time. Training time, for me, it's important to optimize. If you have 60 minutes to train, how you will prepare your session, how many exercises you will do, what are the profile of the exercise. I think that's now that's important. If you lose time doing things that is not connected with your game idea, I think now in these situations, in this environment, it will damage your work, in my opinion.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Joao.
Yeah. I will just proceed. Yes.
Because the time session limit is there, so I'll just request you just stop it there. We move on. We will come back to you once again through your questionnaires, through the questionnaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
I'll just move on to our next speaker now. And before that, I'll just highlight one point that we make the name of this session as today's Chanakyas. In Indian history, Chanakya was the great tactician. And once we actually understand football, we understand that if a player is the heart, then the coach is the brain. So if football has to move on, obviously the coaches has to think differently. We must be doing something so good for 2 to 3 months prior, but most probably in present scenario, we have to do something slightly differently. So I'll request each and every panelist to highlight on those doable point more, and also the subsequent points, what is the best practice, what we are opting, what we are supposed to do, all those aspects. So now I request Mark Sampson, he's World Cup bronze medalist coach, UEFA Pro coach, to share his presentation with us.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear and see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will share my screen. Can everyone see that screen?
No.
No
I'll
yet.
share that now. There we go.
Now it's coming. Yeah.
Morning, everyone. So I've been asked to speak for 8 to 10 minutes, and I wanted to talk about my views and experiences of high-level football and what I think will change. So in terms of what will change and where we were, so before COVID, I think that my experience of top-level football at professional clubs and international federations could probably be summed up by a triangle here, whereby recruitment would be the key characteristic of any football club. So a lot of time, resource, finance, staffing was spent on recruiting players to bring to the football club. Less of a priority then, moving up the triangle, would become the player development section. And not only the player development, but the team development. So what are we putting into our football club or our football team in relation to finance, resource, staffing and time in relation to player and team development? And some of Yao's messages there were outstanding in relation to player and team development, whether that be training methodology, DNA, coaching, resources in terms of facilities, analysis, etc. And then often in my experience, the top of the triangle is often the part that's neglected, the part that we actually spend the least amount of finance, resource, staffing and time on is the youth development. So developing young players who can progress through from the academy section or the community section to progress through to a player development section in the first team, and therefore foregoing the recruitment section. And I think if I look at where we were before COVID, a significant amount of finance, resource, staffing and time would have been focused on the recruitment section, especially finance. If we consider the transfer fees that were being paid, the amount of money then being used to identify players and pay agents and all the other administrators around that process. If you looked at the expenditure of football clubs, wages and transfer fees have been incredibly high. What we see now as a result of COVID, and I've experienced it in my own football club, is the impact on the financial situation within football clubs, not just at the highest level, but working down the English pyramid in particular. And I can imagine across clubs globally, impact financially on this crisis is going to be significant. And if there's one thing that football history should tell us, is that the best clubs in the world historically have turned that triangle upside down. If I think of Barcelona from Spain, Ajax from Holland, Dinamo Zagreb from Croatia, Benfica from Portugal, Southampton, Manchester United in England, what they have consistently done in their football club is made sure that triangle is upside down that way, working from a youth development perspective through to a player and team development, finally being topped up and supplemented by recruitment. So if I look at what will be the impact of COVID and what does future football look like for football clubs first and then football coaches, is that I think this is the model that the successful football clubs will adopt in the future. Instead of recruitment being a fundamental part of the football club right at the bottom, driving everything, dictating player and team development, dictating youth and academy development, it should be sat at the top where it's supplementing both of those areas. So once we've developed a great youth development program, a player and team development program, our recruitment is the icing on the cake. Is that the bits that we can't fill or provide through those bottom two, we can now supplement through recruitment. And if I look at the words that were on the previous slide, finance, resource, staff, and time, there will always be critical words in football. And whether you're a coach, a CEO, administrator, a fan, they're always going to be powerful and act as huge indicators of success in the modern game, particularly now moving forward after this crisis. But some of the phrases that I feel are going to be more and more important and present are going to be some of these phrases on the right-hand side. The successful clubs of the future are going to be driven by coaches, driven by football people within the football club, either a director of football, a head coach, a coaching staff, who can provide a football club a very clear DNA. And from that DNA, we can then move down to creating what Yao articulated brilliantly, a very clear and articulate methodology. What are our ways of working on a daily, weekly, monthly, annually, 3, 5, 10-year cycles that create our DNA and bring that DNA to life, whatever that DNA may be. What we're definitely going to see now is if we are going to invest more time and player development and youth development become more important, then the specialist delivering in that department and the finance being provided for that is going to become more and more important. If we look at a football club prior to COVID, not potentially at the highest level, we're talking about how many specialists they've got in each area, and there wouldn't be many. But moving forward, the era of specialists is certainly upon us, whether that be from a technical perspective, a physical perspective. But when we talk about player and team development, what we've learned from this COVID crisis is digitally, we can certainly impact and affect players, teams, and units. And individual coaching within a team setting, I feel will certainly be something that will become more and more important. It's spoken about a lot at youth development, IDPs, individual development programs, individual development plans for players based on a club methodology, based on a club DNA, supported by specialist coaches in each area: technical, tactical, physical, social, psychological. And fundamentally, what this crisis is going to teach us is that things will happen a lot slower, because the finance in football, unless you're blessed with a huge investor and benefactor to move your club from A to Z very quickly, then patience will become an increasingly important virtue for a football club. But we can only have patience if we believe in what we're doing. If we believe in a DNA, a methodology, in the people who are at our football club or association and deliver that, and we are accessing all the modern technology out there digitally to support that process. And I'm conscious of time, but I just want to share an example. And this is what fascinates me as a football coach, is that Virgil van Dijk in 2013 was playing for Groningen, a team in the Dutch Premier League equivalent. And if you speak to his coaches at the time, his manager at the time, and you read the articles at the time, there wasn't much confidence about where he would get in his career. Every piece of evidence in that moment was telling us that his development curve was going to be that red line, is that he would start out at the level in 2013 at Groningen, he would improve, he would develop, but where he would get was never expected to be where he has got. What fascinates me as a coach, and I think what's got to fascinate us all as coaches moving forward, is what has happened in that gap there. How much are we studying what has happened in that gap, that curve has gone on that trajectory to take Virgil van Dijk from a player who wasn't playing regular Dutch Premier League, wasn't rated by a number of coaches. And if you speak to people at Celtic, his next move, that Celtic were one of not many clubs who took a punt on Virgil van Dijk back in 2013. Ajax were one of the famous clubs who turned him down. In 2015, before his move to Southampton, speaking to people at Celtic, a number of big clubs at that point chose that he wasn't the right fit for them for a number of reasons. And I think if we go back to a youth development, player development focus and specialists, what data's showing us now, what specialist coaches are telling us now, is that they can identify how a player can fit into our own methodology, our DNA, both statistically, and then from a coach's perspective, observationally and subjectively. But as a football club and as coaches, we've really got to get passionate about how are we maximizing our individual talents to make sure their development curve is along that white line, not that red line. And to present a slow model to you is that individual coaching in football clubs at the moment is limited in my experience. Actually focuses on a detailed individual plan for players within your football club who can develop online in track with your methodology through your own DNA, working with individual specialists in each area to maximize talent. And moving forward after COVID, I feel this will be more and more important. How are we providing individual detailed plans for each individual player to fit into those DNAs and methodologies? And if I look at an example of someone like Virgil van Dijk, I think we can identify 2 or 3 characteristics that have significantly changed from his time at Groningen Celtic to now at Liverpool that have made a significant difference to his level of performance. How we coach that, how we develop that, how we analyse that, how we support that in all those areas, because he hasn't just improved technically, he hasn't just improved his game understanding. Something has happened psychologically, socially. The environment he's in has allowed him to get to where he is now. And providing individual detailed plans, being supported by individual specialist coaches with expertise in each area, I feel will be more and more important. And if I look at someone like Van Dijk, it was very similar to a player we're currently working with at our football club, a centre-back. And if you look at something along the lines of how can they dominate every defensive situation? And once we analyse that as a key facet of his game, we can start to leave that at the top of the pyramid and work down beneath is that what's got to happen for all of those things to happen. And I'll share one example with you before I leave you. Is that, oops, excuse me.
Okay, so thank you, Mark, with a outline of the present COVID challenge and your thought-provoking discussion on individual development of player. Now I will request Alteadi Vilasante to present his presentation. He is a UEFA Pro coach, and presently he is also part of football development with many other activities.
Okay. Oh, hello everyone.
Altea, can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes,
well,
yes,
I'm
it is audible. Altea, please move on.
Okay. I would like to speak about the new methodology I create. Okay. We will have we had many time during this pandemic, and I've been thinking a little bit out of the box to create some different methodology. It's basically a methodology based on linguistic immersion. I don't know what happened here. It's okay. Okay. Do you know what it is? Yes? No? Well, linguistic immersion is, to give an example, imagine a person. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Move on.
Imagine a person that is moving from Spain to United Kingdom to learn the language. Okay. So the idea is create a full immersion of this language. Okay. The community where we are going, and a full immersion of the culture. Okay. In that case, in United Kingdom, we don't have any knowledge of the language, and we want to have a bilingual level. We want to achieve a bilingual level. This is changing the scenario in terms of football, what we want to achieve, okay? We want to achieve a real understanding of the game. How we can have this understanding of the game? From my point of view, is training as close as the game is, right? Which is the language of football in that sense? The language of football is the match, okay? So we want to train in terms of match from the beginning till the end of the session. All the tasks through matches, from the warm-up till the last task of the session, okay? So why we train technical circuits, why we train rondos, why we train passing drills, why we train possession games and positional games? I feel that it's unspecific and far from the real game, okay? When we can really train directly as the game is, through matches, from the beginning till the end of the session. We consider that to train during the session, our tasks has to need some principles, and we based our tasks on 3 principles, okay? First principle is the directionality. Second principle is opposition, exactly the same in a real game. And finally, scoring area. All our tasks in the session should have these 3 main principles, okay? Then, of course, to create a meaningful learning, we have to create a progression from the base. Giving an example, okay? If we start playing matches since we are 6 years old, using these technical and tactical aspects in a proper way, when we will become adults or pro players, we will fully understand all the situations. And when we find some situations at the game, it will be easy for us to solve that situations. So take in mind that training that way, our experience playing matches would be around 4,600 matches from 6 years old until 18 years old when we become adults. So it's a lot. It is training as a real game, playing matches around 4,600 times. Okay, it's a lot. It's more than the matches that play a professional player in a long career, like, for example, Xavi. Okay, we said why, what and why this methodology, and now how we develop this methodology. Well, we use our principal basis, as we said, directionality, opposition, and scoring area. We do it through a progressive, meaningful learning. First learn, then practice, and then dominate, okay? Using all fundamentals. First, in Spain, for example, we have a structure that first, from U6 till U12, we play 7 against 7, 7 against 7. That it's what we are going to focus in this session, okay? And from 12 years old to 19 years old, we play 11 against 11, but we will focus because we don't have much time in the little ones, because maybe it's a bit more difficult to train through matches in that ages. And finally, we give some space for creativity and development for the players. Okay. Here we have a general structure of the methodology. It's just to show you that there is this progression. There is an initiation stage, okay, a simulation and performance stage, and performance stage. All that stages goes with the concepts we said: learning, practice, and dominate. At the same time, in each stage, we have this progression of learn, practice, and dominate. And at the same time, inside the sessions, we have a progression also of learn, practice, and dominate. Okay, we have two kinds of sessions, or structure of sessions. We have a normal session and we have creativity session. The normal session, in that case, as you see, we start from less players to more players, and it is about 4 tasks. First, warm up, then we have transitory task, principal task, and final task. Well, in all sessions, we will work on one offensive and defensive technical aspect, and one offensive and defensive tactical aspect. We will give to this tactical or technical aspect a value. The value will be explicit or implicit. The explicit value will be the one that we will focus in the task, okay? In that case, if it's a tactical explicit concept, we will focus in the tactics. If it's technical explicit concept, we will focus on technique, okay? Then, as we said, we have a creative session structure, okay? That it's, we call it chaotic matches. It's just to give freedom to the player. There is no corrections, there is freedom, and it's to recreate a bit the street football model, more or less, okay? It's just to give them creativity, and we have different models to create this imagination for the player, to improve this imagination of the player, okay? Sorry. Last but not least, we have an example of our week. In that case, U12, okay? As we said, during the week, we will work just in one offensive and defensive tactical content, and one offensive and defensive technical content. It will be during all week, the same content in a technical aspect and a tactical aspect. As you see, we have 2 sessions of normal session, from less players to more players, creating a progression. We have 1 session of chaotic match, creative session, and at the end of the week, on weekend, we have the competition match. In that case, in U12, we will, the first 2 sessions, we will give an explicit technical content. So the 2 first tasks, the 2 first tasks, we will focus on the technical content, and the tactical content will be implicit. And in the last 2 tasks of the session, we will focus on the tactical content, and the technical content will be implicit. I will show you an example of session, okay? And maybe it will be clear for you. Here we have an example of session, the first task. Here we have the number of players participating, the explanation, okay, with the graphic, and here we have the objectives and the rules. At the top right side, we have the type of task. This is the warm-up, okay, always through a match, okay. In that case, the explicit content is the technical. There is offensive content that is control and pass that we are going to working on, and defensive content that it's the interception, okay. Here we have the defensive tips and offensive tips and corrections where we want to focus, and we have the tactical the tactic implicit. That means that the players are already working on it, but we are not focused right now on it. But they are doing it. Then this is just the second task. In that case, transitory task. It's an evolution of the other one. We introduce more players in the task. The technical content is the one that is still we are still focusing on it, and the tactical content, it's implicit still. Okay, and then we move on to the onto the principal task. Here now we have the tactical concept implicit. Now we focus on the tactics. In that case, we have now more players than the task before doing the task. The offensive tactical concept is offensive width, and the concept is the progression, and the defensive is the mix mark and retreat. I don't know if in English exists the terminology of mix mark, but in Spain we use this concept. Okay, and the technical concept goes implicit now. The players still are doing this control and pass and interception, okay? But we are not focusing on it right now. And the tips change. The tips and the corrections change, and we focus on tactics. And finally, the last task is a real match. In that case, this is U12, it's 7 against 7, and we focus on the tactical aspect. They are also training the technical aspect, but we are not focused in that moment. Okay, I hope it was understandable. Excuse my English, so I tried to my best to be understandable.
Okay, fine. So after the initial 3 presentation, as we understand that football starts from grassroots, progress through youth, and ultimately culminates in the elite level. I will now request Amit Kumar Jaiswal to say something about the present situation and the residential academy module of football training.
Sorry.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, clear. Amit, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, wishes to all, and hope that everyone is doing well. I'm honored to be in this panelist. I'll just go to my So I'll just go to my presentation and we'll start.
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just start with it. So the topic of my presentation is the new normal and the road ahead for the youth development through residential model. Now here we have all the knowledgeable panelists, and we had the presentation on different models and the methodology. What I want to come into this picture is how in this present situation we can give a practical solution to the youth structure. Now, if we go and talk to all the associates, are more focused to the senior level football, how to restart it, and it's important, but we should not go ahead development. So I'll just go to my first slide. Youth development is the pipeline of talent for the future. We cannot think of senior level professional football without including the youth system. We all know this. So when we are thinking and having a discussion in pandemic situation, we can't leave this without having a practical solutions that everyone else can go with it. Now, why residential academy? Residential academies are more controlled environment to keep the players safe in the for the training and the development work going. So these are the most controlled situation for the environment where we are keeping the players at one place and controlling whether with their safety or the training that we are following. Now, what are the present challenges that we are facing? So we have prolonged football stoppage. We already know past 3 months, we all are locked down. We are locked at our homes. Nobody's training. Even if they're training, it's a very limited one. The other thing is uncertainty of the situation. Still, we are not so sure till when and when we are going, till when it's going to end and when the football starts, especially in younger football, because everyone else is more interested in senior. And that's obvious. The other one is young, vulnerable. Okay. So we need to take care of all these things into account. Now, if we see in terms of players' perspective, what we see, they need to do few things and something they need to avoid. So adhering strictly to the safety guidelines that the government and the associations are giving them, stop sharing habits of personal belongings, controlling eating habits, dividing and managing their studying time and training time. The other part is optimal utilization during this transitional phase. So what they can do in this time, watching good sports related movies, watching matches, pushing specific players that they can help, self-analysis and discussion with the coaches that can help them to take advantage of this time that they are at home. In coach's perspective, what we need to say is, first of all, the utilization of this period. So they need to consult the experts to understand the depth of the situation. The other thing is utilizing that. I am sure that most of the coaches are using it to learn and get something in this time. The other thing is stay connected. Now, this is one important part that I want to put on is, should not let the players just to stay on their own to train or to do the things that they are into it. We should create. Now everyone is free. Everyone is free. They have their own ideas, and there should not be any restriction. They should go in this or that way. So we are just there to let the coaches create something which can help the players according to your methodology, your ideas. That's what we mean. We want the coaches to go on with in the youth structure. Checking and maintaining players' mental aspect is very important because they're in lockdown and not being into any competition. So that's a very important aspect that a coach needs to take care of. Now, these are the residential academies guidelines that a academy should need to follow. Okay, I'll not go too much depth in it because we have a lot of experts. They will understand physical distancing, sanitization, keeping the players away, having health issues, all those things. Going to the food handling, the same thing that will go with it. How to manage the things with the food, the mess area where the players are going to have the lunch, then how they're traveling, how they're moving, and then hygiene of the kitchen and other things that it's known, and we can have our own way to go with it. Now, the basic sanitization, yes, here comes few things that we need to pay attention. Sanitizing the residential area, using of sodium hypochlorite to maintain the area, bathrooms, rooms, toilet, cleaning and keeping it hygienic. That's very important. Now, going with this, we all know these are the general things that we can focus on. But what are those things, the technological aspect, which can be used to keep us safe or sanitized? So in today's market, there are two things: UV oven, which will be used to decontaminate the mask, the food, the other items, to ensure the reuse of these things, especially the mask. We already know we are into a sports-based environment where we can't force the mask and the other important safety equipments to be overused. It's very important to keep it less and reusable. So we will not create a problem into the current situation for the people who are actually in need of it. So that's very important. The other thing is UV blaster, which can be used to disinfect the living rooms, the eating areas, and the recreational halls, which will be the bigger areas. So we'll just go to the next slide to understand. So these are UV ovens where we can put the items for specific amount of time, and then they will be reused again. The same thing when we go to UV blaster towers. So these are the towers that we can use and we can keep it in a room and set the timers according to their wavelengths and the area it can be used, and make it disinfectant. Okay, so the biggest issue with this is we can't keep running with the chemicals and going here and there and keep cleaning it. So this is the better way, which will be faster and easier to go with it. So we will recommend the coaches and the academies to go through it. Now, going to the next one, new normal post-COVID training. So what is the new normal when we go? Until and unless we come with a vaccine or a medicine, we have to live with it. We can't run away from it. So what are the things that we can do? Screening to ensure health of the players at ground. We need to have, in India, we have Arogya Setu app. Other countries have their own tech apps that can be used. Then infrared thermometers, masks, sanitization, social distancing, traveling arrangement, because most of the grounds, they are away from the residential setup. So you need to travel, and then using the water bottles. These are the things that we have to make sure that we go with it. Other things that come into picture is using the swimming pool, gym, masseur, physio. Now, till we get sufficient expertise on it, we should try to stay away from physio and masseur until it's an emergency to use. In terms of swimming pool, as of now, there's no specific research on it where it can be contaminated when we go, because it contains chlorine, and which is itself is disinfectant. So these are the things that we need to take care of. While we go to gym, one important thing that I need to, the temperature rise because of using mask in humid weather. Nowadays, the temperature is, and weather is humid, and we recommend the players to use masks over their faces. So there is a huge part where the mouth, the breathing takes the temperature away from the body. But when we are recommended to use masks, it's important that the coaches, when they come to the training, take care of this into their consideration, that maybe the player's temperature will already be at some higher level. So how they need to organize the warm-ups, the volume, intensity, they should take care of these things. Now, every coach is free to take his own consideration and their own weather, where they're staying. That is also important. Some countries are more humid, more higher temperature, somewhere more colder. So it depends on the geographic terms as well. Now, these are just few picks to understand. We need to move to the next one. Now, post-COVID training modifications. Now, when we go to training, we all know everyone have their own knowledge and ideas how to go with it. But when we go to a youth structure, there are a lot of things that we can't force because they are coming after a long period. So there will be few things that we need to stay with it. That is making sure that we have physical fitness tests where they rely, learning from the grassroots model where the focus will be more on technical aspects, especially in the starting the first month of training. Then the cardiovascular ability to improve, how we are going to work on that, how we are going to modify it, and have our ideas to make sure we don't put a lot of pressure on their physical abilities. The same thing going to work on the explosive strength training. So we need to manage the volume and intensity. Using the shadow training will be one of the good aspects to avoid contamination and keep some tactical aspect in it. Now, the one of the statement from Indian cricket team fielding coach, he said the way we should go with it is low volume, low intensity, followed by moderate volume, low intensity, high volume, moderate intensity, and then we can start with high volume, high intensity in the training, especially when we are going with the youth. Now here we have Bert Blocken, who's having a PhD degree and a professor in Eindhoven University of Technology. He had a research on the aerodynamics of the droplets that travels when we breathe out. So what he said is, when we are running or having an isolation training and we are going with it, we can't be in the same slipstream. That means we can't keep players one behind other within 2 meters. That's a normal idea, advisory. So what we need to do is, when we are walking, it should be around 5 meters. When we are running, it should be around 10 meters. So we need to make sure that we take these things into consideration as well. Now, this is a comparison between a large-sided and a small-sided game. We all understand about this, but how we are going to accommodate, because we can't start with the small-sided games, depending on the situation. We can't force the players to have more contact. So maybe we have to start with the large-sided, then how we are going to move to the small-sided when the players are already with us and we know they're safe. So these are the things, the consideration that we need to have in it. Now, going to the technological utilization in new normal, Arogya Setu app, I already said, fast that we use an analytical system where we take care of the players' physical abilities, their values, and then we assess them. The other thing is ensuring engagement. So using VR experience, using social media to connect, maybe organize some online game competition, especially FIFA, as we are talking about football, that can help them to stay engaged. So this is an app that we use for evaluation. Now, these are FIFA events. Now, one important aspect is ensuring the feeling of excitement and competitiveness that we may be missing for a long period of time. We are not sure when the competition is going to start, and we will be still stuck within the academy structure. So what are the things that we can do? Maybe we can create an internal league with 9v9 system where we mix the players, where they don't get injured. Maybe under 13 and 15 can be mixed, under 17, under 19 can be mixed. We can create a 5v5 league. We can have inter-academy juggling, individual and group competition. We can have freestyle competition. The other aspect is we should make sure that we keep it live on different forms, which make sure that the players are always into a competitive environment and they enjoy it and feel the excitement. So these are the conclusion from my slides, that for ensuring health, distance, mask, sanitization, balanced diet, UV-based equipments, for development using the residential academy setup, using the technology and analytical software, and for optimal competition, competitive exposure, it's important to have some internal leagues, competition, creating your own local level tournaments and strengthening it. So that's it. I will just add a point. I'm not an expert on this, and these are just few recommendations that I'm putting forward to all of you, which you are free to take it, make some changes, or maybe leave it. It's all up to you. Thank you very much.
Now we'll move ahead. We will request Steve Jabi to share his presentation and the vision. Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, namaskar. Basically,
Namaskar.
Yeah, basically my presentation is response to the fact that we were speaking to mainly an Indian audience, and I get inundated with emails, messages from Indian lads, both players, mainly players, and to an extent some coaches. And I'm going to try and speak about the role of the foreigner, because they want to go abroad, want to play abroad, and so therefore they'll be foreigners. And I'm going to speak about that. The sad news is that I'm not a computer expert. I'm far happier on grass, kicking a ball and working with players. So you won't be getting a wonderful IT content display. You're just going to get me speaking to you. But happy to take questions, happy to disagree with people, no matter what. So basically the foreigner, if you look at it historically, it was to an extent the British person going abroad. You had Juventus, Milan, even Brazil, started by British people Then, as the players got better, particularly in South America, they started getting exported and started traveling all over the world. Obviously, some fantastic South American players. Then it developed with the African players, and we got African players all over the world. Obviously, if you're playing in India, I've worked in the I-League and the ISL, and there's lots and lots of African players there. Some of them fantastically talented players. But now what's happening is the Indian lad and girl is starting to go abroad. And you had Baichung initially, then you had Gurpreet going to Norway, and Baladevi going to Rangers, the first female player to play abroad professionally. Fantastic. That was following on basically from obviously great Japanese and Korean players. So you're having Asian players now becoming, the foreigner. So what advice do I give to these lads and ladies who want to be foreigners abroad? First thing I'll say is learn the language if you can. Now, I'm not going to say be fluent, because you're not going to be fluent in a few in a few weeks or a season, because sometimes you're only going to last a season. As a coach, you might not even last the season. That's the reality, especially in the I-League. So learn the language, mainly because it's polite. That's the first thing. Learn to say hello, say thank you, say please. It does you no harm to be polite. But then also it gets your dressing room acceptance, because the dressing room is the key for a player. You've got to be able to survive in the dressing room. I used to tell young Australian players when I worked in Australia when they first went to Europe, lots of them did, worry when players, the old pros, don't take the mickey out of you, because that's when you're in trouble. If they take the mickey out of you, you're accepted. So it's really important, if you're learning to joke in the language if you can, even swear in the language, because that'll get you some form of acceptance. In terms of the coaching, it does not help if you can say bend your run or arrive late to a young lad. If he's 18, he's under stress playing. If you're trying to give him that in English, it's going to be a lot harder for him to translate that. He needs to have it in his own language if you can do it. And there are simple ways, like I coached the Thailand national team, and we used to use the word beep. Beep in Thai means press. Ying means shoot. So rather than say shoot, where the Thai lad would have to translate as he was working, it wasn't too bad in India, because basically a lot of people do speak English. But if you can, learn English. If you can't, if you're going to Denmark or Sweden or Belgium, you might not be able to master that language quite quickly. Try and get at least some English, because that will then enable you to break the ice with some people. Okay, second thing is understand the culture of the nation you're going to, because it really doesn't matter what you do in England, Germany, Brazil, whatever. You're in another country. You are a guest in the country. So you've got to learn what is appropriate. In Thailand, you don't show the soles of your feet. In Islamic countries, you don't drink alcohol in front of people, if at all, if you can get away with it. There are attitudes towards cultural things, such as marriage. I had an international player in Malaysia when I was coaching there. He was my star player, my star striker. He rang me and said, I can't come training this morning, coach. And I said, why, are you injured? He said, no, I've got to take my mum shopping. Now, this was an international player at a professional league. We're going to play a game at the weekend in front of 60,000. And he couldn't come training because his mum told him. And the reality was, his mum was more important than me. So I had to learn to culturally accept that. And the fact is, he went training, he went with his mum because his dad was sick, so he had to take his mum shopping, and that was the end of the story. So you have to learn to accept the cultural differences. Even like food, it sounds, you'll get, I encourage Southeast Asian players when they go abroad to stop moaning about, oh, we can't have our own food. True, you've got to start adapting, but you've also got to be sensible. I made the mistake when I was in Calcutta of eating some of the local food. I have never been so ill in all my life. It was the greatest weight loss program in the world. It was awful. So you learn have to adapt to the food, but try and be sensible with it as well. You must, if you're looking at food as your coach, this is also, I learned from mistakes, it's often a waste of time talking to a player about food, because in Asia, the player is not the provider of food. The provider of food is mum or the wife. So you have to get through to the providers of the food if you're going to educate a player about his eating habits. And that's where you've got to, and you've also got to be sensible. If for example, you're talking about carbohydrates, why should an Indian boy have to eat pasta when rice is just as good and a lot cheaper, which is very important. So they learn the language, understand your culture. Now, if you're coaching abroad, you've got to have key relationships, because you have to have relationships in any political position, and you are in football a politician. You're dealing with the politics of football. Anyone says there's no politics is naive, because there is. You've got to look after the three key people to me are your players. You've got to look after your players. That's the most important thing, because they're the ones that are going to keep your job or get you sacked. Because if they don't fancy you, believe me, they can get you sacked. So look after your players. I've seen coaches survive by being nice to the media and being nice to the president. But I mean, I like to sleep at night, so I think the players are the most important. But you've also got to learn, and now in modern football, you've got to manage upwards, because no matter what you say, someone is paying your wages somewhere. And it's nice to get paid. Those in the I-League will know that sometimes it doesn't always happen, but not the ISL. I found that to be very good. But you have to deal with people upstairs. You have to deal with the presidents, administrators, committee men. They dictate often how you work. So you've got to learn to deal with them. You've got to learn to be flexible at times. You've got to know what you're doing. And the best advice I was given was in Asia was be like bamboo. Now, there's not too much bamboo in Liverpool, as you can imagine. So I listened to that for a while, and this Asian administrator taught me, he says, bend. At times, bend with your principles. Don't break them, bend them, because you're in a different country. And the last group you've got to deal with now is the media, and because they are very powerful. I learned that in Calcutta, the Bengal media were absolutely unbelievable group of people. I would get translations of articles where I was quoted, and I never even spoke to the person. I even complained to the editor of one Bengali paper, and he just laughed at me and said, well, the guy had to put in an article, otherwise he wouldn't have got paid. And he missed your session, so he made one up, and that was almost acceptable. In fact, it was acceptable. He did it. So you got to deal with that. And in the modern thing, you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn to deal with social media, because whether you like it or not, the social media is massively powerful. I even got sacked on Facebook once. I opened up my laptop and I saw I'd just been sacked because the president didn't do it to my face. He did it on Facebook online. So. But you have to learn to deal with it, and if you can manage it, you're not going to win it, because you're never going to win some of the lunatics online. But if you can manage it to your and control it to an extent, you've got a good chance of surviving. Both as a player and more so as a coach. As a player, the next important thing is contracts. Get your contract in writing, because a verbal contract is worth the paper it's written on. If that makes sense. Absolutely not worth a word. You've got to get everything in writing, preferably in one of the FIFA languages, because if you do have a problem, you're going to have to send it to FIFA. So you've got to get it in English, Spanish, French, etc. So make sure you get your contract in a language you understand and a written one. And you've got to be honest. You've got to do a two-way thing. You get the contract that you're going to get. You'll get some players who do under-the-table contracts. So to avoid tax, that's fine if you get it. But if things go wrong, you remember you might not get that under the table contract, because you can't go anywhere because you've been basically breaking the law. So you've got to make sure that your contract is ethical, honest, and as a player, you've got to stick to the contract, because we often hear of clubs sacking players. That's true, but also there are players who are unethical, and coaches. Try and keep a high personal standard of ethics yourself. Do what you can to deliver your side of the contract. Be the best player, the best athlete, the best coach you can be. That's important. So to summarize, what would the advice would I give to coaches going abroad and to players is, well, firstly, avoid the colonial mentality. You know, you're a guest. You're not there to conquer the country. Don't be naive. And also, you're not going to change the country. I was in Fiji once, and I was really upset about the amount of poverty in Fiji. And an administrator told me, a wise old fella, he said, do you really think you're going to change Fijian poverty? He said, because you can't. Who are you? You're a football coach. He said, but if you get the team to win, you want to make the people happy. And that's what, there's a famous statue outside of the COP of Bill Shankly, and it says he made the people happy. So if you can do that, you're halfway there. Enjoy yourself as a footballer. Go abroad, enjoy the things, enjoy the other parts of the life. If you're in Italy, see the fantastic things there. If you're in England, go and see the great sights. You know, so don't just be a footballer, gain the whole cultural experience. You'll come back a better player, and you'll come back a better person to your own country, and you'll come back stronger as well. I encourage all Southeast Asian players to go abroad because you come back as better players. And finally, if you're a coach, the most important thing, win. Because if you don't win, you won't be there long. Because welcome to Asia. Long term is next week. Development is winning bigger than last week. So all the models, all the wonderful diagrams are absolutely meaningless if you're losing. You've got to win in football. It's a sad reality, but that's based on experience of working in professional leagues in Asia. Win games and you'll be a great coach. Lose games and you're hopeless. Okay, I'll conclude there. I'm happy to take any questions anytime. And sorry there was no computer.
Thank you, Steve. I'll just come back once everybody finishes.
Yep.
Now just moving ahead with those wise words from, I just now request Dinesh Nair to give a light over the responsibility of a coach over a holistic development of a player.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hope you all are fine during these difficult times. Taking care and staying safe. So first of all, thank the Madhya Pradesh Football Association for organizing something where it is knowledge sharing and important to get such eminent personalities on board to across the globe. So these are some of the Chanakyas, as you said, not the coach, the Chanakyas across the globe that we all know of. These are just a few. There are many, and these are some Chanakyas who have done a brilliant work in India and for the national team, for the clubs, and India also had some great Chanakyas to go with. Okay, now this is one person who I don't think not many people know about him. His name is Syed Abdul Rahim, and that's his details. And if you come back to the Indian national coach in 1964, Alberto Fernando once said, "What I learned from Rahim in 1956 is being taught now in Brazil." He was a football prophet. So that's where the Indian mind is. And Rahim Sahib is regarded as the architect of modern Indian football, basically a teacher by profession. So this is a very important thing that we should look at. A coach, a teacher, educator, mentor, we all know that. So if you ask me, a coach is a teacher. You need a good maths teacher. Similarly, if you need a good football player, you need and a human being, you need a good coach. Okay, some of his achievements, he took, Melbourne Olympics semi-finals in the 1956 Melbourne Olympics. First assist before he expired was in 1963. He expired in 1962. India won the Asian Games in Jakarta, beating South Korea. So these are achievements that we speak of Achana. Now, as a coach, I think we all spoke about small-sided games, residential academies. Any coach about what? So we look at text. football, where we look at, developing, depending upon what age group, what level they are, but this is what we look at. And of course, now with statistics and conditioning and all of this comes together. But I feel as a whole, the most important development is an emotional education. I think should play a key role even as a coach. So as a coach, it's not only your role to train your players on technical, tactical, physical, and mental, but it's also about emotional development of a child and education. How can a coach play an important role in educating a child? I mean, if I like we have Richard Hood here, if the coach Richard is a child and who comes to play, and the coach tells Richard that you don't come to play from tomorrow if you don't do your homework, I'm sure that Richard and all the other players will do the homework, not to study, but at least to come and play. So that's how coaches play an important role, creating responsible citizens, role models, and 360-degree development of a child. I think this is very important, because how many players that you train will end up being professional, play for the country, play for elite clubs, or even play football after a certain age. So I think that's important to understand. And this is statistics. According to the Business Insider article, the chance of a player making the Premier League is just about 0.012%. That's about 180 players in 1.5 million who are playing organized youth football in England will make it to the Premier League Pro. So this is what it is. I mean, 0.012%. So it's not that you're training 20, you have got a batch of 20 kids, 30 kids, 15 kids, and all the players will make it big in football. No, this is what the stats say, and that we have seen in, India specific, how many players have started playing and how many play football and what is their current situation. So to understand is, yes, a coach is a teacher, but where do we stand in world football when it comes to coaches? So that's we need to understand. So these are the number of pro and A license coaches in India. So we have 16 pro, 184 A license. Iceland, which is smaller than a area in Mumbai, is 13 pro license coaches and 196 A license coaches, and Japan is way ahead. And this is the Japan and Iceland stats are as of March 2018. So that's the gap we're looking at. And if you see only pro license coaches, these are the numbers of men and women across Spain, Germany, England, and India. So if you see, that's the gap that we have. And this is the European countries that we look at are at as of 2017. And as of June 2020, we are at 16 pro. We've got no in men. Women, we don't have any pro.
Ask questions.
Okay, so that's where the reality is. And if you come back and ask me, it's important is coach education. Educate the coaches, whether be it a pro license coach, whether be it grassroots, D license. And in India, so we have a lone crusader. So we have Savio Madera, who's the head of coach education, who's crusading against. Now it's easy to get stats and numbers and say we don't have coaches, but now coming back, we don't have instructors. So we have one A license instructor, we've got 2 B license instructors, and we have about 15 C license instructors. So it's like a chicken and egg story. So as coaches, administrators, I think coach education is very important, whether it is being creating elite players, professional players who play for the country, to play for the top clubs in India, in Asia, or across the globe, or creating individuals where, individuals, role models, responsible citizens. I think education is the key. So getting coaches educated, getting to what is important. Even before getting into the technical, tactical aspects of football, I think education is the key. And in football or in any aspect, I think education holds a very important role in the entire scheme of things, whether be it player development. And as a couple of speakers rightly said, it's you need sportsmen, you need people who understand at the helm of saying things, whether be it clubs, whether be it technical directors. That's what we need. And what we also need to understand as coaches, as administrators, as owners of academies, as owners of club, is every child who plays, won't become a Ronaldo or Lionel Messi or Sachin. You know, if India cricket is big, or Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, right? So we need to understand that and accordingly get into it, and especially with the situation right now, how we use it rightly, how we use social media platforms to educate players, coaches, I think holds the key in the in today's world. And then yes, we know that we have a group of 20 kids, and we know that 5 of them, 6 of them will make it to deck, and that's where you start taking them to the next level. Try to keep it very small, but if you ask me to summarize, I mean, all this is, yes, a coach is a Chanakya. Tactical, yes, but tactical once the player gets into elite or the elite competition. But coach is someone who molds. I mean, you know, it's like you have mud and you make a pot out of it. You have to mold them into a player, into a human being, into an individual. Whether be it in today's world, even educating players on social media is so important, because I think we talk of decision making on the ground. Decision making on your mobile is on your phone is more important today, because every second minute or second you are on the mobile looking at your Instagram. What do I post? What do I like? Whose do I like? What's my tweet? So it's so much of decision making, not only on the pitch but off the pitch also. You know, what do I, because it's so open. So I think that's where a coach or a mentor should come as, where it's not only about football. Yes, football is the grasp of things, but around it, I think everything is important. What should a player eat? What should a player speak? His education, his social development, his mental development, his emotional development. I think that's the key, and that's where Chanakya should come into and spread knowledge. And with people who have the knowledge, of course, you won't have the limit. You'll have to keep upgrading till the last breath, but always go and share. So if you've gone for a course, or if you have experience, go back to your community, spread it to your schools, around the community, spread it to community coaches, help as much as you can. And that's how when you talk of Indian football can improve. And we have to have coaches from the grassroots to the elite. I mean, we need to all work together and make this happen. So that's all from me, and thank you so much for having.
Thank you, Dinesh. Be precise and to the point, and bringing out all the crux of the thing. Now I will just request Richard to just take it forward from there and give his vision ahead.
Thanks everyone. I'll just set up the presentation. Can everybody hear me and see the slides?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want to start off with taking the lead from what Steve has said about being decent people and him being inundated by emails by Indians. 17 years ago, when he was head coach of Home United, I was, I think, 15, 16 years old. I'd sent a really long email to him, I mean, to the club's generic email, and he was the only head coach to have replied back to me, and it was pretty much the same things. He had told me back then that continue working hard. We have foreign players identified. We can't really look at youngsters anymore. So, I mean, him talking about people flooding him with emails brought back that memory quite a long time ago. I'm not sure if he remembers, but yeah. So going into, just one sec, yeah. I mean, talking about the new normal about return to play, I think being a senior team in the I-League second division, we have certain issues with how exactly do we start off. One is that we have all these protocols in place. We've got fitness tests in place, but the gaps in getting players ready to play, that is getting them prepared for
when I was at home and
I think there's an overlap in dialogue. So, I mean, just the difference between what the tests reveal and what the game actually is, with gaps between sharpness and speed of the game. I think that's amongst the biggest problems that we've got. The other bit is weakening of the immune system. we really don't know how much the disease is going to spread in India. Numbers are rising. When exactly do they decide to open up things? So more we subject the players to let's say training protocols and things, and then how exactly do they go back home and what the life is away from the training environment, that becomes a big issue. And then there is a tournament pending for us. Our season is not yet concluded, so we are looking. Our last match was on the 12th of March. With even with rule changes, let's see if they allow 5 substitutions. Do we have that sort of quality on the bench? Because even in the last few matches we played, we made only 2 changes. So even if all these rule changes are being introduced to us to protect the players and things, when it comes to winning and losing, I think the fact that we have 5 subs in place, or we have only 2 decent players that we could probably bring on in that game situation, that is something that we are considering. So coming to the point of individual periodization, I think if we sit down on social media now and we have to believe everything that players are putting up on the Instagram stories and Facebook stories, we will believe that we have the fittest players coming back to us, because everyone has uploaded pictures of them sprinting on the beach, working out in the gym, and wiping sweat off their faces. These 10, 20-second videos. How well guided are they exactly? And I mean, what condition are they going to come to us in? That's a big challenge that we anticipate. The other bit also to do with the effect and output of performance. Are we going to be as tied up as we were throughout the season, where we had a proper preseason and the calendar laid out in front of us? Or are we going to look at players who are going to be more effective and maybe sacrifice all those nitty-gritties that we sort of had in place in terms of your running output and expectations for each position? So just in terms of managing progression and adaptations once the players come back, what will be the rules that will be in place? Can be individualized training? Do we need to break down in groups? Adaptations in terms of nutritional adaptations? Do we need to intervene with extra training sessions or not? How many training sessions can we actually have? Who's going to use the training facility before us? Do some of the players need to go in for extra sessions in the gym? These are the management questions we are going to ask as far as the individual goes. So I think more than anything, once the season resumes, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks will be as individualized as it can possibly get. Next is the monitoring of performance. I think that's been the biggest gift that we've got. Considering the level at which we play in India, the management has been generous enough to enable us with StatSport Apex devices. So, and we have a live monitoring system in place as well. So even if we are training in individual groups around the pitch, getting to the actual picture, getting them to reach, let's say, our ideal outputs in training, so that we have good performances once competition starts. That's one aspect that we are looking forward to. And then using it more to inform about rest and recovery as well. What condition do the players leave the pitch in? Having protocols in terms of rate of perceived exertion, doing those little surveys. I think that will be really important, along with whatever data that the devices throw up to ensure the well-being of the players. So, this is not really the methodology and things, but whatever planning considerations that we put in place. One is the framework of play. I think all the speakers have spoken about that, having a game model, the principles, sub-principles, and all of these. We will be starting with a very new look team again. We really don't know what attributes they've got, because the level at which we were scouting, we really didn't have so much of insight in terms of what player qualities we are bringing in. So we will have 2 periods of trials again before we decide on the final squad, and then have this framework. The intent, like it's always been, is to get the training as close to the match as possible. So that is high speed problem solving, that is creating organized chaos for these guys, subjecting them to opportunities to solve problems, cause problems on the pitch, and then quality of engagement. So with this, we would mean, the sort of awareness that we create, the sort of alertness, the sort of arousals and information and cues and reminders that we subject the whole training to, that will be of key importance before we tie down to the lesser or more details of it all. And to conclude, and this being the last slide, I would, I think, just 1 second, sorry, but something that Mark had said in his presentation about it coming down to the people. I think we'd spoken a lot about all the changes that will come, but a few things that have to remain absolutely the same is the sort of value we place in people. So he had spoken about the academy directors and technical directors holding on and creating the DNA of the team. I think the DNA, even in terms of what happens at the senior level, that is having a set of values and principles. This isn't something that's written down in stone or a piece of paper, but it's just something that we experience and share. Cohesion that comes in, and then the work ethic that we try and promote with the people that we've got. So I think with all of it, whether it is masks or hand sanitizers, congestion, no congestion, new players, old players, but I think the most bright challenge for us will be to get the absolute right people for us in place and start off the season as responsibly and carefully as we can. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, from overall discussion of tactics, coach's role, and impact of COVID, we will now just go towards the position-specific training aspect. So I'll just request Stephen just to give an highlight and presentation of the training of goalkeeper, age-specific and development-specific way.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you? Oh.
Stephen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, as you've mentioned, what we are going to look at is key areas of goalkeeper development. So, 2 seconds. Okay. So, yeah, basically, a quick insight into myself. I've worked at academy level in the UK, both male and female. Got me UEFA B, FA Goalkeeping B, FA Youth Award, and I've run my own business now for the past 8 years. So everything that's in these slides, I've incorporated into both more of a professional setup and grassroots as well, obviously leading into adult football. So what we're looking at is how I look to develop the goalkeeper from age 7 through to under 23, again with the aim of developing them into adult football. And I'll just give you a little insight into what I've done over the past 14 years and also my philosophy. So my philosophy is to create intelligent, proactive, athletic goalkeepers who've got sound technical ability, great game understanding, can communicate effectively, and are able to think clearly throughout the chaos of the game. So what we'll look at is the key aspects and key considerations through each of the phases. So your foundation phase, youth development phase, and professional development phase, which should eventually lead into this goalkeeping model going into adult football. So in terms of your technical and your tactical, you want goalkeepers who are consistent in their execution of their actions, efficient and effective in their actions, have a great range of distribution, the good game managers, the manage the space effectively in and out of possession, the proactive in reacting to transitions, both regaining possession and losing possession, and they also distribute the ball well in possession as well. In terms of physical, again, they're able to move efficiently and effectively, use their frame to their advantage, they're able to dominate physical duels, and they're physically able to cope with the demands of the game. Psychologically, they need to be self-aware, confident in their own ability, have the ability to perform consistently under pressure. They need to possess good emotional control and have a determination to want to be the best. Socially, they need to be a great learner and a student of the game. That's both at training and away from the training field as well. They need to have the ability to build great relationships with the teammates, also the coaches, managers as well. They need to be a leader on and off the pitch, have a positive influence on the team, and also need to have a great on-field presence that could adversely affect the opposition. So things to consider. There we go. When you're developing your goalkeeper and developing a goalkeeping syllabus, or what's a goalkeeper's role in possession, out of possession, and also during transitions. So obviously in possession, you want to have a look at how they're supporting and communicating with their teammates, the quality of the first touch, the range of the distribution, both from the floor and out of the hands, their pass execution, and their ability to exploit any space that the opposition does leave. Out of possession, they need to be thinking about defending the space and behind the defender, so playing more that sweeper-keeper role, playing a nice high line, managing the space effectively between themselves and the defenders. You need to also think about defending the penalty area, obviously, as the game progresses. And as the ball gets close at their goal, so thinking about dealing with crosses, through balls and 1v1s, and then finally thinking about defending the goal. So obviously their ability to keep the ball out the back of the net, as well as that, how they communicate and organising. And then obviously during transitions as well, how they're going to respond to both losing possession, or their team losing possession, and regaining possession, and can they remain positive throughout. So when developing a syllabus, I've broken the game down into these 6 parts. So it's basically keeping the ball out the back of the net in terms of your shot stopping, so your movement around your goal, your handling, your diving, reaction save, shots on sight, deflections, and then unique actions. So one that really springs to mind is Kasper Schmeichel, the big spread. 1v1, so you're talking about your smothering, blocking, spreading, the lane of the attacker, how they deal with angled approaches, early shots, and also working with recovering defenders. Crosses and high balls, so talking about crosses going across the goal, to the crosses to the front post, middle of the goal, far post, punching and parrying, also second phase. So once that ball's been cleared, they need to remain active. They need to be aware of what's going on. Distribution from the hand, so talking about variations of the throwing, kicking out the hand, how they're going to maintain possession and starting counter-attacks, distribution from the floor, thinking about switch and play, playing short, medium, long-range passes, also recognising when to circulate the ball or keep possession, when to penetrate the opposition, when to play into or onto teammates, and when to play beyond the opposition. And finally, how they're going to support and communicate when they're defending the goal, defending the area, defending the space and behind, or when their team is in possession. So, sorry, I'll just go back there. That cycle will recur for 7 6-weekly blocks. So you've got 42 weeks essentially of topics and sessions to work through. In terms of sessions and how you're going to break them down into the age groups, you've got isolated technical practices, which are more close or constant, advanced technical, which is a more varied environment, and then game specific, which provides a more random outcome for the goalkeeper. So in terms of isolated, it wants to be very high for your under 7s to 11s, so that they gain a lot of confidence in their technique. Under 12s to 16s, you want to be medium, so you're talking about refining basic technique and also adding more advanced techniques to their practices. And under 18s to 23s, it wants to be quite low. In terms of advanced technical or your varied, you're going to go medium. Sevens to 11s would be quite low, 12s to 16s would be medium frequency, and 18s to 23s would be quite high, more so through their incorporation into the team. So what I've done is, and there is a lot of crossovers here as well, so as it goes on, I'll not necessarily read every point that I've put out here, but key considerations when developing your goalkeeper through 7s to 11s is their set position. So that's got to be unique to them. It's got to be something that's comfortable. It can't be too rigid in terms of how you're teaching it. Your basic shot stopping, so your handling techniques and your diving, low and mid height. Dealing with 1v1s, dealing with crosses, so that's both low and crosses into the front post and incorporating punching. basic distribution from the floor and out of the hands. So it would be things like basic volleys, your throws, and passing the ball more so short and medium distance. Their control of the ball, start position in relation to the ball, and introducing them to connecting them to their units. Physically, keeping it quite simple, you want to be developing their ABC, so agility, balance, coordination and speed, and making sure that they're moving effectively and efficiently. Psychologically, again, I mentioned before, introducing them to decision making, helping them with mistake management, developing their confidence, making sure that they're self-aware so they know what they're capable of, and understand of their personal tasks within the team. Socially, you want to try and develop them to be a good teammate, be a positive influence on the group, be respectful, be a good learner, and be a leader both on and off the pitch. As well, at the bottom here, I've also put it's very important, in my opinion, not to specialise players too early. So I would never encourage a player to be specifically a goalkeeper under 12s. If they want to get that additional training, that's fine. But it's very important for me that when they go to their team training, they have a lot of exposure to playing outfield, playing under pressure, playing in different positions, which I do believe will help their goalkeeping in the later years. So again, all I've done is I've just highlighted the new the differences. So again, there's a lot that remains the same. So in terms of developing your syllabus for your 12s to 16s, your technical, tactical, you want to be thinking about your advanced shot stopping techniques, your advanced distribution, efficient and making sure that they can distribute efficiently and effectively, understand their roles both in and out of possession and during transitions, introduction to game management and connecting the units. Physically, you want them to probably be a little bit more physical in their personal duels, so 1v1s and high crosses, and any kind of 50-50 scenarios. Want to be developing their explosive power whilst refining the ABCs. You want them to learn how to use their frame and the build to their advantage, and also start to introduce them to strength and conditioning. So depending on the environment they're in, if they're in a pro club, they should have access to that. If it's grassroots, can they go out and find a suitable strength and conditioning coach? Psychologically, we want to start developing their mental strength and emotional control. Want them now to start to want to overachieve, so to really push themselves and demand more from themselves in training and in games. Starting to develop the concentration and their confidence in their own ability. And socially, want them to be a good learner, but also to be a good communicator. So in terms of incorporating them into the team, they should be doing a lot more with the team to also develop the foot skills, whilst working in more of a varied and random environment. And finally, 18s to 23s. So again, there's a lot of crossovers here, but this is now more so developing them to play adult football. So want to really dig deep and see where we can help them with their match-winning saves, understanding when to counter and when to develop play, being efficient and effective in the response to transitions and opposition threats. Need to be able to manage the game and also again connect to their units. Physically, it remains the same. Obviously, we're still trying to develop them there. Psychologically, we want them to have a greater understanding of team tactics. And again, the more random outcomes come from them being incorporated into small-sided games and phases of play during their team training. And hopefully with all of them, we should be looking at some point to develop the next batch of world-class goalkeepers. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Steve. Now next, I'll just move on to Sanjay. I just request him to give his insight about the strength and speed training of football.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So,
Slightly louder.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Madhya Pradesh Association for organizing such a lovely webinar, and also for Sports League to be specific for bringing me on board. So today I would like to talk about power training in football. So most of the speakers have already spoken about the various topics in relation with COVID-19. So mostly all the topics have already been covered. So I would like to take you through the power training in football, which is very important. So be it COVID or no COVID, power training will be there. So, but one thing is sure, like in after this, when the season gets started, it would be very difficult for all the clubs to run their clubs actually, because to run the affairs, because there will be financial crunch, which they will be
Sanjay, just make the screen full, the PPT full screen, if you can.
Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so after when the season gets started, most of the clubs will be facing huge financial crunch. So most of the coaches will have to, make sure that all the things have been done by themselves only, because without any help of supporting staff, because the clubs will not be having enough money to pay to the supporting staff. So little bit of idea regarding the thing which the other supporting staff, like physical trainer, is supposed to do. So it will always help the club. So the basic idea of power training, which what I will be telling you today. So the objective of this session is like to understand the different types of power training, to understand how to evaluate a player's power capacity, and to understand the physiological adaptations to power training. So before moving forward, just I would tell you the basic difference between strength and power. So when we talk about strength, it can be defined as the maximum force muscle at any given speed. Or you can say that it is the ability of an individual to act against any resistance. But when it comes to power, it is the force, it is the product of force and the velocity. So in case of power, the only component which is being added is timing or the speed. So if we are trying to act against any resistance, maximal resistance, that is known as strength. But the same resistance is being confronted by us in a minimum amount of given time, that is called power. So there's a little bit of difference between strength and power. So when we talk about strength and power, the muscle contractions are very important. So we need to have a clear understanding of various muscle contractions. First is concentric contraction, then there is eccentric contraction, and then there is isometric contraction. So when we are trying to get a muscle contracted, hello,
please go ahead.
Yeah. So when we are talking about concentric contraction, it means the muscle gets shortened. So when we are trying to move our muscle, the muscle gets contracted and the size of the muscle gets shortened. That is what concentric contraction is all about. And eccentric contraction is like the muscle produces force by lengthening, the size of the muscle gets lengthened. And the isometric is, we are trying to contract a muscle without the change of muscle size and shape. Like we are trying to push the wall remains in the same place, but our muscle still gets contracted, but the size and shape of the muscle doesn't get changed. So there are basically three kind of muscle fiber in our body. First one is white muscle fiber, and the second one is red muscle fiber. So red muscle fiber is known as type 1 muscle fiber, and which is also called slow twitch muscle fiber, and white muscle fiber is called fast twitch muscle fiber, okay, which is called type 2A and type 2X. So the slow twitch muscle fiber, which is red muscle fiber, is basically used or basically recruited for lower intensity exercise. So the contraction velocity and the endurance capacity of different fiber is being depicted here in this graph. You can see when the contraction velocity of the red muscle fiber is quite low, and then the type 2A, which is the white muscle fiber, is comparatively higher, and then the last, that is type 2X. So both the type 2A and type 2X both are fast twitch muscle fiber, but the type 2X normally produces maximum amount of force, or it can generate very powerfully, it can contract very powerfully in comparison with other muscle fiber, this red muscle fiber and the white muscle fiber type 2A. So you can see the difference between these things. So the red muscle fiber is basically used for aerobic kind of exercises, and which is actually which normally goes for prolonged period, and whereas the white muscle fiber, which is very powerful and which is very powerful in nature, and which normally contracts in a very powerful way, it is normally used for a very short burst of exercises like sprinting and weightlifting. The definition of power: the basic muscle power, power of the muscle groups in a given time, in a given movement. And then comes the transference power. So basic muscle power, we normally do it in the gym. Suppose you want to develop pectoralis major, the muscle power of pectoralis major. So you can go for bench press and all. So then comes the transference power. The transference power is the same, like the basic muscle power which is being used, which you have developed. It can be used to do a particular movement. So that becomes transference power. And the same basic muscle power which you can relate with a football action or football movement, that becomes football power. So aims of power training in football: to increase muscle mass. Basic muscle power training, it is basically used to increase the muscle mass, the cross-sectional area of the muscle, and to increase the power. Similarly, the transference power training is basically to improve the ability to increase maximal or near maximal football related movement, and same goes for football power training. So all those power which is being developed through basic muscle power training, it can be used in executing all those football movements. Suppose in 1v1 duel or tackling and all, so we normally use this power. Relation between various types of muscle power training. You can see the chart. The basic muscle power training, it can be, it goes down to transverse power training. Then transverse power training can again go to football training. So the graph is, the chart is very much there. So, and ultimately which leads to football performance. So adaptations to power training in football. So basically power training, if we do in football, there is adaptation taking place. So the percentage of 1 RM. So and in the left side there is the percentage of growth of muscle fiber. So 40% of 1 RM, and then 50% of 1 RM, 60% of 1 RM, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. So you can see as the percentage of 1 RM, percentage 1 RM means percentage of 1 repetition maximum. Like 1 RM is the amount of load which can be encountered by an individual in one particular repetition. So in one repetition, in 40% of 1 RM, see the muscle growth is at almost 3 to 4%. And then as the percentage of 1 RM increases, the muscle growth also increases. But after attaining 75% of 1 RM, the growth becomes stagnant. So then the ceiling has to be thatched. Need to be thatched by changing the training load or training volume or intensity by which the increase or the improvement can be done. So you can see the graph going linearly upward, and then after 75% of 1 RM, even after we are trying to increase the load, the growth is not that much. The growth has become stagnant. So, and then again, if we see the adaptation in case of power training with frequency. So when we are trying to increase the frequency of training, when we are trying to increase the frequency of power training.
Sanjay, voice has to be slightly louder.
Okay. See, frequency power training also has an effect on the growth of muscle. Can you hear now? Power training is increased the growth of muscle, the cross area, or the like one session per week, and then 3 per week. From 0 to 0.02, then 0.04, 0.0 muscle fiber. Red is depicting the type 1 fiber, that is slow twitch muscle fiber or the red muscle fiber, and the blue mark, the blue line is depicting white muscle fiber or fast twitch muscle fiber. So the training load when is being given, the same training load is causing the red muscle fiber to move upward, but at a slower pace. But the changes which is occurring at the white muscle fiber is quite yes. So you can see the given the same training load, how the different muscle fiber is reacting or they are behaving. So basically, when we are giving power training, the white muscle fiber normally reacts in a better way. It responds in a better way than the slow twitch muscle or than the red muscle fiber. So that invariably shows that the white muscle fiber is responsible, or this is more powerful muscle than the red muscle fiber, and which is that is the reason why it is responding in a better way than the red muscle fiber. And this is the training load estimation, that various RM. In one RM, the percentage of maximum is like 100, and when the percentage of maximum is 94, which is 2 RM. When the percentage of maximum is 91, which is 3 RM. So like that way, the chart is there. So if we are trying to formulate a training program, power training program for the athlete, then we can stick to this particular thing, so that it gives the guideline for us to go ahead. This is the principle basically.
Okay. Thank you, Sanjay. I will request Julio to throw some light about his methodology, what he wants to highlight during this session.
Okay, perfect. Going to share the screen. Yeah, let's see. Go to my board. Okay. Now it's there?
Yes. Full screen.
Can see that? Sorry for that. Allow me to 1 minute. Now, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. First of all, thank you to Sportsit Pro to invite me to join this football meeting. I think it's very important to share all ideas and to get all different kind of information for different point of view. It's very important. So thank you so much. Let's go, because I think we don't have too much time. So let's start. What I'm going to talk about is about my methodology, the methodology that I use according to my knowledge, according to my experience training in Spain, in Norway, and in India, and also what I learned from my mistakes. I mean, it's not pretend to be nothing new. Is all the people is going to know what I'm talking about. Is a basic presentation, more focused on the grassroots and for the grassroots coaches. In this presentation, we are going to have like 4 points: the definition of methodology and the benefit of use it, steps that we need to make to implement the methodology, the application, and the golden points. Let's go. Definition is the group of methods we use to teach, work, or perform an activity. Yeah, so, sorry. Okay, here we are. The group of methods we use to teach, work, or perform and activity. The group of tools that we have to teach in case of the grassroots, to work in case of the professional, or to training. Just we have a group of friends that they want to play football. The benefits of using the methodology is using the right methodology is help us to introduce the football concept to teach into the time we have and to use our knowledge, the facility and the equipment in the best way to help our team to achieve their goals. Whether we train a grassroots, amateur or professional team, the first step is to define the methodology for work, teaching or training. Then before to start to coach or to work with a team, we should ask ourselves these 4 questions. Who am I teaching? What am I teaching? How will I teach it? And how will I know if the students understand? This picture is taken for the teaching methodology. For teaching and coaching, especially in the grassroots, should be the same. I mean, in the grassroots level, we need to teach football. We need to teach how to win. We need to teach how to lose, how to be competitive to the high level. Then, who am I teaching? So we need to make a difference between the age group. It's not the same to coach or to teach to under 8 that to teach or coach to under 15 or the junior or the senior. It's not the same teach in Spain that in Norway, that in India. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. So we need to understand that. Also the background of each team. If there is a team who like to play direct, it's a team who like to play with combination, it's a team who have good technical skills. All of this we need to know before to start to define the methodology. What am I teaching? What am I coaching? Football. But how many elements we need to teach in football? We're going to talk about that. How will I teach it? So how will I teach it is going to be the golden points and the steps of our methodology. Which methodology we are going to use? How will I know if the students understand? We need to have a feedback from the students. We need to have a analysis of our method, not because we think our methodology is the best, just go sleep over and don't care. We need to continue checking and continuous making analysis of what we are doing. Methodology of teaching or coaching, we need to have a plan, we need to have a good communication, we need to teach and learn, we need to lead. Lead means like we need to lead all the team that we have, the players, the staff, the equipment, the facilities, feedback from the coach, from the players, feedback from the rest of the team, and evaluate our work. We have a experience between the players, the coach, and the football itself is going to say if we're working good or not. Okay, so when we start to coach football, we need to know how many concepts we need to teach to the students or make them to understand the game. So how many concepts we have? I don't know if you think about it, and if you have a number in your mind, like how many we need to work to give a significant learning. So we divide the football in 5 elements, according to me, and the technique, tactic, physical condition, psychological, and emotion. Emotion here, all the people call social is the same. In Spain, we call more emotion, and is more related with the team cohesion, with the players' interactions. I mean, if the team like each other and the team help each other, is going to play better than if the team that they hate each other. Not only in the grassroots, professionals everywhere. If we have 2 or 3 players that have a good connection, they are going to have a better actions than the other players that they don't have this connection. So we have drills for that. So we need to include these emotions in our methodology, in our football elements. Plus, we need to teach the rules and the behavior. Juan Malillo is the new assistant of Pep Guardiola, said that the best tactical book for football is the rule book. So now we have a new rules, and according to these new rules, we have a different tactic aspect. So we need to teach the rules, we need to teach behaviors. It's not only about technique, tactic, and physical. If you put all together, they can be between 80, 90, 110 concepts that we need to teach into the time that we have. This is a small example of a plan for a grassroots team where the competition is not important, maybe because it's not there. In my experience in India, this is a big problem. Now the people is working so hard to make leagues, to make competitions, but right now in the grassroots, we have maybe a 3 months league or a 4 months league. So this is a plan for 9 months in the grassroots, right? So we talk about the concept that we have in football, so we need to introduce this concept in the session. We have nine months, and this 9 months we divide in 3 periods. Each period in 3 months, each month in 4 weeks. Each week we have 3 sessions per week. In the session, we can do 2 or 3 drills, so the aim of the drill need to be linked with the aim of the week. Then the aim of the week need to be linked to the aim of the month, the aim of the month to the aim of the period. And slowly, we are going to give a significant learning to the player. So the final aim is related with the aim of the first drill that we are doing in the session, in the year. Then, with our methodology, we need to take care of the optimization of the facilities we have, the field of the gym, and assuring that we use all the equipment we have, ball, bibs, and technology. The technology, if you have, you need to know how to use it. There is many people who have GPS or who have gyms or who have the Swiss ball or Bosu balls, and they don't know how to use it. So if you have it, you need to force yourself to learn how to use it. For example, if you have a classroom with a projector and if you have a video camera, it's good that if you record the matches or record the training and then you put this in the classroom and you have a theoretical class one day. So you need to know how to use all the facilities that you have. And this you need to think before the season starts. Define the roles and responsibilities of the technical staff, the medicals, the helpers, and to have a good communication with our players. All of these things, if we have a good methodology, is going to help us to define the roles and responsibilities. Now, Steve was talking about the goalkeeping coach. It's very important to have a good connection with the goalkeeper coach, with the physical coach, with the physiotherapist, with the readapter we have, to assign the time that they need to make their work. All the people need to work together and all the people need to have the same importance. In my opinion, we need to work in the horizontal line, not in vertical. Now, I'm the head coach, you are doing this, you are doing that. All the people need to add the information and so on. To have a good communication with the players. How many times we hear the coaches that they say, all my players are stupid, they don't understand nothing. So if you say that, if all the players don't understand, it's because you don't find a way to make yourself clear. If it's only one player who don't understand you, or 2 players, okay, maybe it's this player a problem, but you can take apart and you can talk with them. But if all of them, they don't understand you, it's because your communication is not good enough. So you need to work in the channel communication. Analysis and correction of our method using player feedback, video, and database. The technology is going to help a lot, but if we don't have technology, we can have the example of Marcelo Bielsa. Before of this technology, he make all the data and all the things by hand. He take paper and pen and he spend hours to create all this data about players, about the opponents, about the strategy. It's question of time and it's question of passion. And now we have technology, now we have Excel. In 5 minutes, you can get many data folders, and it's important. It's important to, if you can measure something, you can improve. If you cannot measure, it's difficult to know if you are doing a good job or not. For me, the most important here is the players' feedback, especially in the grassroots. Sometimes we think that we are working really good and we ask to the players and the players don't like what we are doing. So they make no sense to work like this. We always need to work according with the players, not only with the coach thing. Good. Steps to implement this. The knowledge of the environment. I think was Steve who was talking about that we need to know where we are working. Like I say, my experience is not the same to work in Spain, to work in Norway, to work in India. In India, I've been working in the north, in the south, in the west, and it's not the same. It's different. Every part of every club have its own philosophy, its own culture. So we need to know that. We need to know the grassroots, if they have a competition or not. The time that we have. The time that we have, for me, for my opinion, in the grassroots, we need between 3 and 5 years to make a good project. If you have an offer for a club and they say, Julio, I give you 5 crores, but I want in 1 year or 6 months a national player level, you can take the money and lie, or you can say, no, sorry, I'm not going to waste my time because it's not important. Football needs time. To create a player is like a seed. So you need to put the seed on the ground and you need to wait. You cannot, it's not about money, it's not about technology, it's about hard working and it's about time. Define the aims. The same, if you go to work in the grassroots and you are coaching the under-7s and the director of the academy say the aim is to win the league, you need to win the league, in my opinion, it's better to change the club. The aim in the grassroots should be the improvement of the players, should be the education, like I think Mr. Dines talked about that the formation of the human beings and the formation of the football players in the grassroots. Then if you play professional, of course, then you need to win. Professional is a business. It's not anymore sports, it's not anymore a game, it's business. So when you are in the business, you need to play with different rules, and the rule there is win. Grassroots is improvement of the kids, in my opinion. The periodization of concepts and aims. When you have all these concepts, 190, and the aims, you need to make a periodization in the time, like we told before. In this period, for the low level, for the under-7, I want the coordination with the body, then the coordination with the ball, then the coordination with the colleague, then the coordination with the colleague and the opponent, and then to get the difference between attack and defense, for example. So we need to make these concepts in the time that we have to give us significant learning. And of course, continuous analysis. Always ask ourselves if what we are doing is working or not. Okay, we are almost finished. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but we don't have more time. Applications. Here I will let to work with 3 principles. The principle of adaptation. It's just repeating the same, yeah? Sometimes now we are a grassroots coaches, we don't have a good level and we don't know too many drills. So we go to internet, we pick up one professional drill from Guardiola, for example, and we try to put this drill in our team. So the first of all, we need to adapt this drill to our knowledge. Why this coach is doing this drill? What is the aim of this drill? Second, we need to adapt this drill to the capacity of our players. If Guardiola is playing a possession with only 1 touch, with equal number of the players, and in the small square, maybe in our level, we need to make a big square, play with floaters and with free touches. Because if we try to play exactly the same that the professionals are doing, it's not going to work. This is obvious. The principle of progression. Once the kids are doing this drill with a bigger space, with more players, with the more touches, then we can start to reduce the space, to reduce the number of the players, to make equal players, and to maybe reduce the touches if this is what we want. And always start from the simple concept to the more complicated. Don't start from the complicated to the simple. This sounds obvious, but this is a common mistake that the many coaches we are doing when we start. And the principle of assimilation. If we work something in the beginning of the year, we cannot forget this one. Yeah, we need to work in the beginning of the year, and then after 2 or 3 weeks, work again in the same concept to get a good assimilation. And don't go to the next concept without get a good base. Because if we just want to burn bridges or go to more fast at the time, then we are just going to waste our time and waste the player time. Golden points. For me, these points are the base of the methodology. I mean, after that, you can use a methodology related with your idea of play or with your aims or with the club philosophy, so whatever you want, but these, they should be there. The quality over quantity. Don't try to make too much drills, or don't try to work for 4 hours. Try to get the time that you have a good quality and good timing, and good drills. Not try to make one drill, another drill, another drill. Good drills always. Focus on solutions, not on the problem. Make your team, when they face a problem, don't play the blame game. Don't say it's your fault, it's the other guy's fault. Try to focus on the solution, what we can do to fix the problem. Then after the match, we can see what we can do to avoid this problem. And also for the coaches, my experience in India, sometimes they are, I mean, in Spain, in Norway, is the same. They are more focused on the problem. That, oh, the field is really bad. We cannot do this drill. Okay, the field is bad. You cannot do this drill, but maybe you can do another drill. So use your imagination, use your creativity to fix the problems. But if you are always focused on the problem, then you are going to be stuck there. Same opportunities to all. All the kids deserve the same opportunities. Not looking only for the good players and then put the good players in one group and the bad players in the other group. If we have a big guys, then it's good, and the small guys put outside. All same opportunities to everybody. We don't know who is going to be professional, who is not going to be professional, so give the same opportunities to all of them. More working time and less waiting time. This we can think about the shooting drill, a long queue, with the coach is making the last pass. So the player is coming, make the wall pass with the coach, shoot, 5-10 seconds, then pick up the ball, go back to the queue, 2-3 minutes waiting in the queue. So this is going to get the player bored and demotivate, and they're going to start to talk each other about their own problems and forget about football. But the ability, for me, this is one of the real golden points. Don't do always the same. Don't do always the same warm-up. Don't do always the same drill. Even if you love the drill, you need to work on the same and the same concept from different approach. Then you're going to give to the player more opportunities to learn different learning of the same concept. So then the education of the player is going to be richer. Play without fear of failure. In Spain, I see many times that one player make a mistake, and now the coach start to shout at them, why you're doing this? What? This is the ego coach who told you. It's nothing else. If the player needs to play with the creativity, with imagination, without fear to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, it's normal. You make a mistake, you are human, you learn from this mistake. The only thing that we need to know is don't repeat the same mistake over and over again. Learn from the mistake and go forward. Finish. Positive feedback. Even if you are going to make a correction, start with a positive feedback, because then the players are going to feel better. Nobody likes that you say, oh, you're doing this wrong, this is not good. That you are playing good, you are making a good clearance, but in this clearance, what do you think? Maybe it's better to do to the other side. For example, a positive feedback is important for me. Learn, teach, and learn. Just 1 second. Learn, teach, and learn. The coach need to learn. And when you are teaching, you learn again. So you need to teach again. Okay? Safe environment. Now with this situation, it's obvious, but safe environment is also the quality of the field. Don't holes in India, be careful with the wild animals, be careful if the road is across the field with the weather, but safe environment is also about mental environment. All the players need to feel safe, all the players need to have this belonging of the team, need to feel like a family. No bully, not pressure, they need to feel really safe there. Direct self-learning, last point. The direct self-learning is about that we are going to give questions to the players and they need to give the answers. This requires more time, more patience, but it's really worth. We're not going to create robots. We are going to make the cognitive aspect, the decision maker is going to be more richer. And then the last point, it should be fun for everybody. The coach need to enjoy, the kids need to enjoy, the parents need to enjoy, but even for the professionals, you can see when the professionals smile, they play better. And the professionals have too much pressure, it's not good for them. For the kids, it's even bigger, this difference. So if you have fun, you're going to play better. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry, it was super fast. Here is my email. If someone want to ask any query or ask for the presentation, I will happy to share. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the sponsors and especially to Sports Pro. Thank you.
So we almost had 2 hours of discussion and 10 experts shared their view. 4 definitive questions we have received from the audience, and I will basically mark them with specific name because that has been forwarded like that. The first question is, with the proposed 5-player change rule of FIFA, are we thinking of any tactical scenario change in coming days once the teams are playing? The question has been marked for Mark Sampson, Joao Tralhau, and Steve Dunn. I just request Mark first to answer on that. The question is basically proposed 5-player change and its tactical impact on coming days in teams.
I think as my international time as a manager in friendlies, we were allowed to use up to 7 subs. And if you think of the 5 sub rule, you're effectively potentially changing half the outfield team. So I think we might see rugby union, they tend to make 3 subs in one go to impact the game. And I think that's something we could see in football moving forward, where when you've only got 3 subs, making 3 subs in one go is a huge risk, because if you were to lose a player to injury late in the game, you'd have no substitutions left. But I think what we may see now moving forward are 2 things. One, impact subs, so 3 subs in one go to change the game significantly in one moment. What I hope we don't see, the second thing, is potentially the increase of the ability to waste some time and manage the game from a negative perspective by using subs when you're ahead towards the end.
I will just go to Joao now to answer the same question with another lead point. Do you also think about any formation change in football, something innovative in football? Because once there was World War and post-World War, there was significant change and impact of World War on football. Do you think that this 5 change and the COVID will have any formation change in football?
Yes, I believe that these five subs allowed will promote a better football now because of the density, competitive density. You will have a lot of matches in a small period of time, and you need to manage your team. You need to make them feel they are all, in first instance, they are all important to play. And if you have 5 subs to do, probably you will do it. You will put 5 players in, and if you put 5 players in, I believe you can manage better the effort of the team. You can manage the physical output of all the players, and you have this possibility. It's okay, but in terms of the negative view of or negative perspective of this situation could be, like Mark said before, if teams use this as a logical of losing time or not allow the game goes on in the normal way, I believe could be dangerous. But I always see the positive side, and the positive side, in my opinion, is that first instance, all the team on the bench, they feel that they can play, and this is a good indicator. Even if you are talking about the elite level, this is a good indicator because they all know that they could go into the match, and all the players like to play. The other one is if you play on Saturday and then play on Thursday and then play on Monday, or if if you have this density, competitive density, it's important to manage the effort of the players. Probably players will play 60 minutes, it's okay, and then the other in 3 days after they can play again 60 minutes or 90 minutes. This kind of management, I believe that's brilliant for sports and will protect the game.
I'll just forward the same question to Steve. Steve, do you also feel that there can be some formation change in football? Do you foresee any formation change because of this 5 substitute? And also,
Well, I think,
do you? Please.
yeah, I think the first thing to remember is that when they're going to bring this rule in, the 5 subs can only be brought on at 3 stages. So it's not a case of they can't bring 5 different subs on 5 different times. So the delay process isn't going to exist. So it's going to be 3 stages. And I think as well, that you're not allowed to bring them on after 90 minutes. Again, to stop the delay. So the tactical time wasting, I don't think will be an issue. In terms of the 5, I think it'll start off, clubs will use the 5, and then I think they'll forget. I think they'll just go back to whatever is suitable. If they need to use 5, they'll do. But if not, I mean, I think some clubs will just carry on. I think it's a little bit of a gimmick to get the game back on, to do the right thing on paper, to encourage people being allowed to get back in the game, because we all want the football back on. A little bit of a gimmick. I don't think it'll make that much difference, to be honest.
Thank you. The second question actually has been marked for Richard and Dinesh. The question is because during the COVID scenario, the basic thing is that avoid contact. Do you think that it will also have a positive impact in grassroots and youth football, where player will actually release the ball first and avoid unnecessary congestion of player in one place? Richard first.
I think that's an unrealistic expectation to have, that societal changes will start to affect the way you play the game. That is, it'll have some sort of a technical implication because he doesn't want to catch germs and things, because if there is no option to pass, I don't think the kid is going to release it or just kick it out of the way. So that it's a contact sport, it always has been. So I really don't think that any social implications or protocol that people might have in place will affect the decision making or how they act on the pitch. Once the game is on, it's on, and I think that's the last thing on players' minds, that I might catch germs from the person closing me down. So I think that's really doubtful. It will change the nature of the game in any which way.
Dinesh, will you just agree with it, or you will just add something?
No, I completely agree with Richard. But most important is, before even we get to that stage, is educating coaches and children before getting onto the ground. I'm not saying social distancing, because especially in India, for us, hugging, contact, all those things, like using your own water bottles, all these small things needs to be discussed. And when you get into, also trying to see that especially when children come onto the pitch, the first few weeks or months, they might tend to get injured. So how do we keep them physically mobile and active at home is also a challenge, I think, what we'll face. But coming onto the pitch, some things that a few academies and experts are looking at is the coach-child ratio. Not overcrowding the pitch, but when you start playing a small-sided game, I think contact will happen for sure.
The next question is basically given for Stephen, Altair, and Julio. This is actually in relation to discussion on training. The question has been given like that we all know there is agonist and antagonistic muscle, and there is something called muscle balance. Once in your country, you trained youth player roughly around 17, 18. How exactly you ensured this muscle balance?
Okay, I can say like I say in my presentation, it's important to get all the football concepts to work present. So when you get all the concepts that you need to work, you are going to find the balance. So if you don't know what you are working, then this situation is happened. And maybe you are working more on your biceps and you're not going to work on the hamstring. And then there's a common problem in the hamstring. So when you have a full control of what you are doing, if you have a methodology that they have a planning for work on all the concepts that you need to work, then you can have a control of that. If you don't know what you are doing, if you don't have a program to have a good periodization of this kind of work, then this kind of problem they are coming. When you just work too much on shooting or you just work too much on deceleration, then you can have a hamstring problem. So there are things that you need to think about it in the beginning of when you are planning the season. So get all the injury prevention, get all the right physical work, and all kind of drills that are going to help to get this balance.
Will you like to add anything on it?
No, I'm completely agree. It's about planning. It's about planning. There is different stages and there is different needs in depending on the stage. So it's about planning, just planning. It's, in my opinion, it's just about planning. Well,
Stephen, as a goalkeeper coach, do you want to add anything on to this? Once you are basically preparing your goalkeepers around 17 years of age.
Sorry, you just broke out. You just broke off there a little bit.
Yeah, Stephen, my question is that once you are training your goalkeepers around 17 year age, do you do something different in terms of maintaining muscle balance, strength balance?
It wouldn't necessarily be my job. Obviously, it's already been mentioned down to planning. At that age, as I've mentioned previously, it would be more of an S&C side. From a goalkeeping point of view, I'm preparing them for games, and I'm looking to improve them in any way that I can.
The last question is basically for Amit and Sanjay. In today's scenario, immunity is the greatest thing which we have to have as a player, as an individual. Being part of coaching, how exactly advise your player to maintain their immunity at this stage? Amit?
Yes. So during this pandemic situation, it is very important that to make sure until and unless we get the medicine or the vaccination to keep ourselves immune, especially the youth players, the kids. So I will keep it in few points. First of all, we need to make sure that we fix the eating habits on time, eating, sleeping on time, taking warm water, drinking warm water, which happens in Kerala, in southern India. It's a very good habit. It will help you to have a good digestion of food. Then coming to the homemade remedies from the Indian spices, including that in your diet will help you a lot to develop your immunity. Turmeric, cumin, garlic, black pepper. These are some things that you can include. Going to the next, what I came across is consumption of vitamin C and zinc in your food, in your diet is very important to build your immunity. And then the last thing that I know or I came across in an article that supplements as N-glucosamine is a thing which can help you to improve your immunity. In homeopathy, that is very popular in India or in subcontinent, arsenic album is one medicine that they are suggesting. Again, when I'm suggesting these medicine or supplements, I'm not the expert one, but this is what the newly trends or the articles that I have gone through came across. You should go and contact your experts before you consume it. That's what I think.
Sanjay, will you want to add anything extra with it? Okay, Sanjay is most probably not there. I'll just request Dinesh just to say, will you think that yoga in today's scenario can be an important aspect of youth grassroots football training?
I think yoga not only helps youth and grassroots, but I think all over, I think top sportsmen in the world across, not even sports, across all fields are practicing yoga. It helps in your concentration, in your flexibility. And also I feel what it gets you calm down. And of course, all the breathing techniques helps you with your, lung capacity. I think it will surely help. What I would request all the participants, coaches, or all those stakeholders who are listening is, don't jump into starting your grassroots or youth activities. Wait for the right time. Wait for guidelines to set in. And once the guidelines are here and we know that these are the do's and don'ts, and then we have to make sure that those are being followed. I think that is something which is very important, whether applications or mentioned about contact being there, because once the children are on the pitch, you can't say that don't go for a tackle or don't dribble, or it is going to happen, whatever you try to control. So I think we should not jump. First is the schools to start, when accordingly, once the school starts in, we should slowly gradually try and work things. I know it's not an easy scenario for coaches and people working in this industry, but yeah, we'll have to wait. We'll have to get the children, the parents prepared. So like webinar does is, you need, like coaches will have to have these webinars with the parents, with the children, get them prepared at home. Of course, you can work, a lot of academies already working across the globe on technical, on a bit of physical, you don't need a huge space. Like yoga, you have a mat, people are already working with the ball at home. So I think these are steps that you need to take. And coming back to what you asked, yes, yoga will surely help,
Thank you. I just put a last question to Steve and Joao. Do you foresee that digital football training in next 6 months will be a very, very important aspect to delivery module of training from the coaches side?
Excuse me, can you repeat, please, because I didn't hear well?
My question is that once the academy module or bringing players together in is still a query, do you think that the digital training will be the next thing which will be used maximum?
The digital training.
Yeah, digital training of player, like online training of player, individualistic training of online platform.
Yeah, sure. I think that football will always be open to technology, and the technology, we know that the trend over the years said that we are using more and more technology to help football. I believe that some tools, they are not good enough and they are not effective enough to develop players and to develop academy players. But I'm convinced that some tools are important, like training control is important. I think you should control the training effort, training methods that you apply. If the players know how they are and they can position the time where they are in terms of their physical output, their mental output, and there are some good tools to evaluate this kind of positioning of the player during the session. The training control is important, but in the other way, I think the best tool to help academy players is to show them their performance in the training sessions, the competition, because they will learn a lot when they are seeing their own performance. They can learn, and if you use these tools in the proper way, if you use the process of, okay, let's see the play, let's record the training session, then we will work on the record, we work on their performance, and then we will show the players to make them better in the next stage. I think this kind of process will help players, but you need to use these tools in a proper way, and the technology we should use in a proper way. We should not use technology just to have a lot of technology involved. I believe that you should have a filter to have the proper tools to help the players. Not everyone, but I think the training control is important, and I think the performance evaluation is very important to not only to show them where they are at that moment, but mainly to anticipate and to promote the next stages to achieve. I think that kind of technology is very important for the players, for youth players, both.
Thank you, Steve. Will you add anything?
Basically, if you use technology and it gets a player 1% better, great. But I think it's a bit like Mike Tyson said, everyone's a good boxer until someone smashes you in the face. It'll never replace getting out there on the pitch, playing, touching the ball. You know, that's what we've got to spend 99% of our time of doing. The 1%, if it helps, I'll take it because I'll do anything that helps a player get better. But play as much as you can. That's the most important thing for any youth kid. Play football, play football. Forget even the coaching, just play football. That's the greatest teaching method ever.
So thanks to all for your precious time for almost more than 2 hours. We are just closing the session with a positive note and high, but with a word of caution that before starting, please be aware and know the disease and your society and the scenario better, and of the best possible way how you can engage your players in today's scenario. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Shukriya.
Yeah, Ganeshan will now take over for the quiz.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ganeshan, I can hear you. You can start the quiz.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
I can't see myself.
1 second. One second. Yeah. Ganeshan, over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Manshu. For all the delegates, I would like to continue for the previous session, which I left you all with the introduction of football in India, and continuing it into the next time block. Just a second. Yeah. So continuing with the major time block, this is the pre-independence era between 1920 to 1947. There were a lot of highlights which I would like to introduce to you all during this period. This was when a real club culture started and the inception of East Bengal took place. So as you all can see, in 1920, East Bengal, the famous historic club from Calcutta, was introduced, and there were lots of historic players who have done very well for them. At the same point, their rivals, Mohun Bagan, had a captain by the name Gosta Paul, who was leading the team for the previous 5 years and continued to be the captain of the Indian national team. And subsequently, we saw a complete transition in the way India was playing international friendlies, and they saw their first derby match between East Bengal and Mohun Bagan, followed by Indian team's friendly against Ceylon in 1933, where the iconic player scored his first ever goal for the country. Subsequently, we also saw the Rovers Cup, which was definitely an important thing in Indian football's context, where the youth cups were taking place, and there were lots of instances where Indian football was developing. And when we talk about the structure of Indian football, there was the All India Football Federation, which came into picture in 1937. This was a historic moment where the lead was given from the Indian Football Association to the AIFF to take over the reins and take football to the next level. And the state-based tournament called the Santosh Trophy was later inaugurated in 1941. And subsequently, we had several other occasions in the pre-independence era. Now, talking about the quiz, for all you all have been desperately waiting, there are some basic guidelines where all the delegates have to send in their answers on a specific WhatsApp number. Each question will be displayed only for 15 seconds on the screen, and all the delegates have to send all the answers in one complete message, giving all the 5 answers. So let's start with the quiz. Question 1. Who was the first Indian player to score a hat-trick in an international football match? Option A, Neville D'Souza. Option B, R. Lumsden. Option C, Gostha Paul. Or option D, none of the above. You have only 10 seconds more. Let's move on to the next question. Mohun Bagan lost to which team in the semi-final of the 1920 IFA Shield? Option A, East Yorkshire Regiment. Option B, Royal Irish Rifles. C, Kumartuli. Or D, none of the above. It goes back in time, but it tests your brains for sure. Moving on to the next question. Which was the first native Indian club to win the Calcutta Football League? A, Aryan FC. B, Calcutta FC. C, Mohammedan Sporting FC. Or D, none of the above. You can take a photo of the screen if you want and get some time and answer the question, please. The next question. Which Indian player was nicknamed the Wall of China? Talimeran Ao, PK Banerjee, Janel Singh, none of the above. The fastest one to provide the answers will win the entire sequence of competition. So please be alert and be ready to answer. The last question for this session. Who was the first Indian player to be signed by European club in 1936? Was it Gostha Paul? Option B, Mohammad Salim. C, Noor Mohammed. D, none of the above. This is the final question for this segment. So please rack your brains and we will continue with the next part of the quiz after the next session. All right, stay tuned and the next session will be starting in another 15 minutes. Thank you.